Alarms screamed through the trauma center as Dr. Simone Carter sprinted down the corridor, her white coat snapping behind her, blood already soaking through the cuffs of her gloves from the last patient. A new gurney crashed through the doors. A young man, barely breathing, chest torn open from a car collision, his face pale as paper. BP is dropping. We're losing him, a nurse shouted. Simone's eyes locked onto the wound. No hesitation, no fear, just instinct sharpened by a decade of saving lives in one of the busiest hospitals in Seoul. Get me the ore. Now. But before the doors could close behind her gurney, a security guard grabbed her arm. Dr. Carter, you're suspended. You can't operate. Simone yanked her arm free, her voice cutting through the noise like steel. Then suspend me after he's alive. Just hours earlier, Dr. Simone had been one of the most respected trauma surgeons in the country. Patients trusted her hands. Colleagues respected her precision. Then a politician's son died on her table, and within 3 hours, her entire career collapsed. News anchors called her negligent. Hospital boards called her a liability. Protesters gathered outside the building holding signs with her name crossed out in red. Former colleagues who once praised her skill now avoided eye contact in hallways. She remembered standing in the chief administrator's office, listening to him deliver words that ended her world. The board has decided to suspend you, effective immediately, pending investigation. That patient was already gone before he reached my table, Simone said, her voice steady despite the storm building inside her. You know that. What I know, the administrator replied coldly, is optics. And right now, the optics say you're the problem. She walked out of that office with her head high, even as everything she had built crumbled behind her. Now, standing in an or she wasn't authorized to enter, she didn't think about politics. She thought only about the dying man in front of her. Scalpel, she said. The nurse hesitated. Dr. Carter, if he dies, they'll end your career permanently. He's not going to die, Simone said. Not on my table. For 12 brutal hours, she fought for his life. Vessels were repaired. Internal bleeding stopped. His heart, which stuttered twice, was coaxed back into rhythm through sheer surgical will. By the time she stepped back from the table, her arms trembled with exhaustion, sweat soaking through her scrubs. He's stable, she whispered. He's going to live. The room exhaled in collective relief. But Simone had no idea who she had just saved. Not until the doors to the recovery wing opened, and a tall man in a dark coat stepped through, flanked by 2 silent figures whose presence alone made hardened security guards step aside without question. Seo Junho, Korea's most feared name. A man whispered about in boardrooms and back alleys alike. A man who built an empire from the underworld upward, until legitimate businesses and silent threats blurred into a single force no one dared challenge. He walked toward the recovery room with the calm of a man who had never once feared consequences. Where is the surgeon who saved my brother? He asked. A nurse pointed nervously toward the hallway, where Simone stood removing her bloodied gloves, unaware that the most dangerous man in the country was about to learn her name. He stopped in front of her, studied her for a long moment. You're Dr. Carter, he said. Not a question. And you're the reason half this hospital looks terrified? Simone replied, too exhausted to filter herself. The corner of his mouth lifted, barely. You saved my brother's life. Everyone else refused. They were protecting themselves, Simone said. I wasn't. Seo Jun studied her for a moment longer, something shifting behind his eyes. I know who you are. I know what they're doing to you. Simone stiffened. This isn't your concern. It is now, he said quietly. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. A message from the hospital board. Emergency disciplinary hearing scheduled. Your license is officially under review for termination. Her hands tightened around the phone as the weight of it crashed over her all at once. After everything, after just saving a man's life with her bare hands and surgical mastery, they were still trying to erase her. Seo Jun noticed the shift in her expression. What is it? He asked. Simone looked up at him, her voice quiet but full of fire. They're not finished with me yet. Something cold and calculating settled into Seo Jun's gaze. "Neither am I," he said. And as he turned to walk away, already pulling out his phone to make a call that would set everything into motion, Simone had no idea that the man she just met was about to tear apart the very people who destroyed her career, piece by piece until nothing of their power remained. Simone barely slept that night. The disciplinary hearing notice sat open on her phone, its words burning into her mind every time she closed her eyes. She had given that hospital everything. Her 20s, her 30s, countless holidays spent in operating rooms instead of with family. And now they wanted to erase her with a signature. She didn't know that across the city, in a glass-walled office 40 floors above Seoul, Seo Jun-ho was already pulling apart the threads of the conspiracy that had buried her. "Show me everything," he told the man seated across from him, a former intelligence officer who now worked exclusively for Seo Jun's network. Every file connected to Simone Carter's case. Medical records, board communications, financial transactions. "I want it all." By morning, the picture was clear. The politician's son had died from a ruptured aneurysm that no surgeon could have prevented. But 3 senior doctors, men who had long resented Simone's rapid rise and her refusal to play hospital politics, had seen an opportunity. They altered post-operative notes. They paid 2 witnesses to claim Simone had been distracted, careless, slow to respond. And the hospital's board chairman, deep in debt from failed investments, accepted a bribe from the grieving politician to ensure someone paid a price, regardless of guilt. It had nothing to do with malpractice. It had everything to do with control. Seo Jun read the final report in silence, his jaw tightening with each page. "She saved my brother's life," he said quietly. "And they're trying to destroy hers because she wouldn't bow to them." "What do you want to do?" his associate asked. Seo Jun closed the folder. "I want to take away everything they think makes them untouchable." That same afternoon, Simone arrived at the hospital to clean out her locker, expecting this to be one of her final visits as a licensed surgeon. She moved through the halls quietly, ignoring the whispers, the sideways glances, the pity disguised as politeness, until she rounded a corner and found Seo Jun waiting outside the administration office, dressed impeccably, his presence drawing nervous stares from every staff member nearby. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "Watching," he said simply. "Watching what?" "Their world fall apart." Before she could ask what he meant, the chief administrator burst out of his office, phone pressed to his ear, his face pale with panic. "What do you mean the board lost majority shareholder control? That's not possible." He froze when he saw Seo Jun standing calmly in the hallway. "You," the administrator said, his voice cracking. "What did you do?" "I bought the hospital," Seo Jun said simply. "Through several companies you won't be able to trace quickly enough to stop it." Simone's eyes widened. "You did what?" "I told you," Seo Jun said, turning to her. "I wasn't finished." Panic spread through the administrative offices like wildfire. Phones rang nonstop. Board members who once dismissed Simone with condescending smiles now scrambled to understand how a stranger had quietly seized financial control of their entire institution. But Seo Jun wasn't only attacking ownership. He was exposing truth. Within days, financial auditors, hired directly by Seo Jun, uncovered hidden transactions linking 3 senior doctors to falsified medical reports. Bank records revealed the bribe paid to silence the investigation into the politician's son's death. The witnesses who had lied under pressure were located, and faced with documented proof of payment, one by one began retracting their statements. The story that once destroyed Simone's reputation began collapsing into headlines exposing the real criminals. Corruption scandal rocks Seoul Medical Board. Doctors accused of falsifying records to protect hospital reputation. Board chairman arrested on bribery charges. Simone watched the news unfold from her apartment, stunned into silence as the same anchors who once condemned her now reported on the conspiracy that had unjustly ended her career. Her phone rang. It was Seo Jun. "You saw the reports," he said. "I saw them," she whispered. "I don't understand how you did all this so quickly." "When people underestimate what they can't see coming," Seo Jun said, They rarely survive it. Simone exhaled shakily, equal parts relief and disbelief flooding through her. Why are you doing this? You don't owe me anything. I did my job. There was a brief pause on the line. You're the only person in that hospital who didn't think about themselves first, Seo-jun said. Everyone else calculated risk. You simply saved a life. That's rare. People like that deserve protection, not punishment. Simone closed her eyes, overwhelmed by an emotion she hadn't expected. The unfamiliar comfort of someone finally standing beside her instead of against her. I don't need anyone to save me, she said quietly, more out of pride than conviction. Good, Seo-jun replied, because I'm not saving you. I'm making sure they stop cheating. The words settled over her like armor. But the battle wasn't finished yet. The medical board, desperate to salvage what remained of their reputation, announced an emergency public hearing, broadcast live across national television, where they intended to make one final attempt to permanently revoke Simone's license, using whatever fragments of credibility they had left to bury her before the truth fully surfaced. Simone stared at the announcement on her screen, her hands trembling, not from fear, but from the realization that the final fight for her career, her name, and her future would unfold in front of the entire country. And this time, she wouldn't be standing alone. The hearing room was packed beyond capacity, cameras lining the back wall, reporters whispering into microphones as the nation watched live. Dr. Simone Carter walked through the doors in a tailored navy suit, her spine straight, her expression unreadable. Whispers followed her every step. The board chairman's seat sat empty, his arrest still fresh in the headlines. In his place sat an interim panel, stern-faced men and women trying desperately to control a story that had already slipped from their hands. Dr. Carter, the lead panelist, began. You stand accused of gross negligence resulting in the death of a patient. Despite recent allegations against members of this board, this hearing will proceed as scheduled. Simone's jaw tightened. They were still trying. I performed within every medical standard required, she said evenly. The patient's condition was unsurvivable before he reached my table. I have nothing to hide. Convenient, one panelist sneered. Considering the timing of these so-called corruption allegations, murmurs rippled through the room. Then the doors opened. Seo-jun-ho walked in, dressed in black, his presence commanding silence the moment he crossed the threshold. Two associates followed, carrying sealed folders. Cameras swung instantly toward him, reporters whispering his name like a current of electricity passing through the room. Mr. Seo, the lead panelist said, visibly unsettled. This is a closed medical hearing. Not anymore, Seo-jun said calmly, because what you're about to hear involves crimes far beyond medical malpractice. He placed the folders on the table before the panel. Inside you'll find falsified medical records, bribery transactions, and witness statements proving Dr. Carter was deliberately framed to protect 3 senior doctors and a corrupt board chairman who has already been arrested. Every document has been verified by independent auditors and submitted to federal investigators. Gasps spread through the audience. Reporters typed furiously. The panelists exchanged uneasy glances, their composure unraveling in real time. This is outrageous, one panelist stammered. We need time to verify. You've had 3 weeks to verify the truth, Seo-jun interrupted, his voice low but unshakable. Instead, you chose convenience over justice. You let an innocent woman's career be destroyed because she refused to participate in your corruption. Simone watched in stunned silence as the very system that tried to erase her crumbled beneath the weight of undeniable evidence, broadcast live for the entire country to witness. The lead panelist, pale and visibly shaken, turned to Simone. Dr. Carter, he said, his voice barely steady. On behalf of this board, we extend our sincerest apology for the harm caused to your reputation and career. The room erupted into murmurs, cameras flashing, reporters scrambling for reaction shots. Simone rose to her feet, her eyes glistening but her voice firm. I don't need your apology to know my worth, she said, but I want every patient watching this to know that the truth always finds its way to the surface, no matter how powerful the people trying to bury it. The room fell into stunned applause, growing louder with each passing second, until even the panel members who once condemned her were left with nothing but silence and shame. Months passed. The scandal led to sweeping reforms across Seoul's medical institutions. The corrupt doctors lost their licenses permanently. The board chairman faced formal charges, and Simone, fully reinstated, returned to surgery with a reputation stronger than ever before. Then came the day she least expected. She received an invitation to the opening ceremony of a newly constructed trauma center, one of the most advanced medical facilities in the country. As chief of trauma surgery, attending felt like routine obligation, another ceremony to shake hands and smile for cameras. She had no idea what waited behind the curtain. Standing before the crowd, the hospital director gestured toward the building's entrance, where a massive cloth banner concealed the building's name. Without further delay, the director announced, "Let us reveal the name of Seoul's newest trauma institute." The curtain dropped. Simone froze. The Simone Carter Trauma Institute. Her breath caught in her throat as the crowd erupted into applause, cameras capturing her stunned expression. She turned, searching the gathering for answers, until the director leaned toward her microphone. "The entire facility was funded by an anonymous donor," she said, "who insisted the building carry your name." Simone already knew who it was before she stepped outside. She found him standing alone near the entrance, hands in his coat pockets, watching the city lights flicker against the evening sky. "You could have put your own name on the building," she said, walking toward him. A faint smile touched his lips. "People already know my name." Simone studied him, her voice quieter now. "Why mine?" "Because the world tried to erase it," Seo-jun said. "I wanted them to remember it instead." Simone looked at him, speechless, the weight of everything they had endured settling into something far gentler than either of them expected. For the first time since arriving in Seoul, nobody could take away her voice, her dignity, or her place in the world. And because of Seo-jun, nobody ever would. If this story moved you, make sure you're subscribed, because stories like this one are just getting started.